you out there on Facebook and YouTube, out on the streams. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. I'm Ethan Janney. We're about to get started momentarily. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Saturday. I will intro the program momentarily, and then I'll intro our guest for the day, and we will launch right into it. I like to always give people a moment to get settled and get comfortable. Get yourself a front row seat. Get close to the action. If you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, I'll tell you how you can get a little bit closer to the action, get updates on joining these programs directly in Zoom call future weeks. So stay tuned for that momentarily. Okay, well, let's intro. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. What we do here is gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. Includes manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. That's an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Radio Hour for just $16 a month. You get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. You can join using the link bit.ly/join PTRH. Always like to remind you of the podcast audio-only versions of the program that can be found at pianotechradio.com. We've been number 1, top 10, top 100 in various locales in the performing arts category on iTunes. Listen in the workshop, doing dishes, working out, in the car as people do. We also have a newsletter/blog at Substack where we reveal some of the insider information from our member area at Piano Technicians Masterclasses. You can check in on that to kind of catch the vibe, see if you want to subscribe. And then we have the socials linked in Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and we have the email list. Just go to pianotechniciansmasterclass.com and you can sign up for the email list with just your name and email address. Okay, without further ado, I would love to intro today's guest. His name is William Westney. He's an internationally acclaimed pianist, educator, and author. A prize winner in major international competitions, he has performed throughout North America, Europe, and Asia, and has received widespread recognition for his innovative contributions to music education. His groundbreaking teaching concepts and writings have inspired musicians, educators, and creative professionals around the world. Today, we'll talk about how his work has encouraged generations of musicians to think differently about learning, performing, and experiencing music. Throughout his career, he has explored the connections between artistic growth, personal discovery, and the uniquely human qualities that make music meaningful. William, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Hi, Ethan. Thanks a lot. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you here. And you go by Bill as well as William, either way.
Either way, your image and sound are freezing up a little bit. I hope that'll improve. It was fine when we were chatting before.
Oh, okay.
When you were doing the intros, we had a little bit of a stoppage, so I hope it'll be okay. I think you're asking me what I like to be called. Is that it?
Yes, William or
it
Bill.
could be William, it could be Bill. I don't either way. Professionally,
great.
it's always William, but when I'm in a chat like this, Bill is fine if you like that.
Okay, sounds good. I'm getting your signal fine. Audience members, please let us know if you're having trouble hearing or seeing me or Bill. It's always hard for us to tell exactly where the issue is.
Okay, let's hope for the best.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Well, I think one thing that I always love to start the conversation with is to reach back down memory lane and think about how you first got into music, how it first touched you, and how that became a path to a career and a specialization in music. So tell us a little bit about the story of you becoming a musician.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, that's a story I like to tell, and I told it in my first book as a way to start the book off because I thought I was very lucky in this regard. Sometimes you have to be lucky. And So, as a little toddler, I showed that I had a good ear and I was a musical kid. That was obvious. We did have a baby grand piano in our little house in Queens, New York. Um, it was a George Steck piano. I have no idea what vintage. It was kind of a decent instrument that we had, and so it was just there, kind of like a plaything for me. And I had an older brother who was taking sort of the required piano lessons. He didn't like them very much, but he liked it even less when he would finish practicing his pieces, and then I would come over. I couldn't even see what I was doing, and I was 3 years old, and I would reach up and I would play his pieces because I knew how to do that, and so on. So anyway, perfect pitch. It just happened to have had those abilities when I was born. And we had a sort of a kindly family doctor who noticed that I was the kind of a little kid that at that age would get kind of keyed up and excited if something was happening, and he said, I think this little guy needs an outlet for his energies. So it's something he could do. And they knew I was musical, and they happened to see a sign somewhere in the butcher shop or something, my mother did, for these music classes for active 3-year-olds. Well, that's perfect. That's what we need. This was something called Dalcroze Eurythmics, which I don't know if you've
Hmm.
heard of or your listeners have
Oh yeah.
heard of Eurythmics, and it's a fantastic thing from the 19th century in Switzerland. Dalcroze was a revolutionary, forward-thinking music educator at the Conservatoire in Geneva. Came up with this way of learning music that's very whole body. You
Hmm.
experience things with your entire body, and that's how you understand musical concepts. So that's perfect for 3-year-olds who are very bodily, they're uninhibited, they like to do whatever, they have no self-consciousness. So it's great. So off I went to this little class, which I still kind of remember, or I think I remember. Um, and what I remember about it, and this is what I say in my book, is that it was challenging and it was fun. I mean, it was the kind of energetic fun. It was full of humor and exciting moments. And when you ever watch a video of a Dalcroze class with toddlers, it's really wonderful to see. They're learning stuff. They know more than they think, and they're not distracted with little fine motor trying to play an instrument. It's just your
Hmm.
movement and who you are. It's a great way to get started. And so it kind of gave me this sense that music was this joyful extension of me, and that learning things and being challenged was also just fun and a wonderful, adventurous joy. So that was my sense of music. And so that meant anything else that would happen to me later on in my musical progress, if it didn't feel joyful and fun and energetic, something wrong with it, because I knew that's what it should be. And I
Hmm.
think that was actually a good sort of thing to guide me. So if there was a teacher came along that didn't make me feel that it was like that, then bad teacher for me, and so on. So that kind of got me started. So then to segue into piano lessons, I did that for 2 years, and I started the piano at 5. It was really quite effortless because by now things about rhythm and expression were all already awakened in me and honed to a degree, which you can do with a 3-year-old. So anyway, that was my extremely fortunate start
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
music, I think, and I never take it for granted. And I later on in my educational work included some of those same kind of rhythmic exercises and activities with adults, to getting them to move their bodies, get over their inhibitions as a way to trust what's inside of them, and without fear.
Yeah, that's interesting. You specifically mentioned even though the Eurythmics sessions were fun, they were also challenging in some way. And it's an interesting topic that you bring up, that I faced several times in various domains. Is yeah, there's a kind of a zone that you want to get into, like a flow. A lot of people describe it as a
Yes,
flow
flow. Yeah.
where things like feel effortless in a way. And so sometimes it's a little bit difficult to balance that between the um the knowledge that it almost, there's a sense that it should feel effortless, but at the same time, you encounter challenges, and in order to really become an artist or good at anything, typically you kind of get through something difficult. Um,
Well, from what I've
I'll
read
I'll say
about flow,
one
oh, go
more
ahead.
thing
Yeah.
before you have a thought on that, just
Yeah.
because I came across it recently. There's this idea that um, the appropriate level of challenge is about 4% beyond your current abilities.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's the best I could come up with in terms of balancing the two things, and I think it's not that simple. But yeah, go ahead. What are
No,
your
that's
thoughts
what I was
there?
going to say. I mean, effortlessness and flow doesn't mean that everything's easy and not a challenge. In fact,
Hmm.
it's the blissfulness of the flow state is that you are with those slight percentage beyond what you can actually do. Not too much, or else you'll feel defeated, and not too little, or else it's boring to you. It's it's not interesting. So that's why playing a sport, playing ping pong, or something, you can get into a flow state because it's challenging. It's not easy, and but it's a challenge you can manage, and it gets you at the edge of your abilities. And what thrills me is I wrote about this in my book, The Perfect Wrong Note, in a certain way. And now there's more and more research that backs up from all these studies about skill learning in the area of sports and stuff like that. This idea that it's not the computer model, but unfortunately, a lot of piano students have inherited. This is tragic, actually. This idea of garbage in, garbage out. So if we want to play well, we need to have this pristine experience in the practice room. No matter how slow you have to go, you want to have this pristine input. That doesn't work because that's not how motor skills are learned. And so when I wrote that book, I was just recycling what I'd learned from my incredible teacher that I got to at the age of 17. Uh, but it's still radical to most people that I encounter. The idea that slow and careful is not the way to go if you really want to feel free and virtuosic and trust yourself, because that's not how you learn to ride a bike or how you learn to walk or how you learn to speak a foreign language or how you learn a new dance step or
Hmm.
anything you want to break through. You have to be willing to make the honest mistakes that are part of your process. It's part of how you learn. So we know
Yes.
that in other areas, and we suddenly decide we don't know it anymore when we're sitting at a piano, getting ready for our piano lesson. And unfortunately, there's a whole pedagogy that tells us this really destructive, self-defeating idea.
Hmm. Yeah,
Although
you're
our
making me think of.
our logical minds think that it makes sense, and so the flow state relates to that because if you're allowing yourself to see what your body wants to do, there will be wrong things. You'll jump from here to there on the keyboard and you'll land wrong. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong or you went too fast. It just means your body's telling you, I don't quite know where to land. Then you can
Hmm.
focus on that and let your body learn it. It's a fascinating and guilt free process. And having been introduced to that in my late teens is how I became a concert pianist because it was an honest, productive way of practicing that I'd never even heard of before.
Hmm. Yeah, we've touched upon this topic a few times before, and I'm thinking of a couple of things. One, we used to have a co-host for the program. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. His name was David Anderson, and his brother was Kurt Anderson, who hosts Studio 360, and
Okay.
his sister is Erica Anderson. She's a consultant. She wrote a book called "Be Bad First," and
Oh,
it is a similar theme. But in the corporate world, the world's changing very rapidly. You've learned your career. You know what? Get prepared for the fact that you might have to change careers. And in order to change careers, you might have to be bad at something for a little bit before you get good
exactly.
at it.
You got to be bad at it, but pay attention to the way in which you're bad at it without any feeling of guilt or shame,
Hmm.
and then you can get better at it. I watched my when my I had children. I watched them as babies with this in mind as a sort of pedagogical eye, and kids are a model of this. They don't need a teacher. There is no teacher for human toddlers learning all the skills they need to learn. They don't need a teacher.
Hmm.
They do everything badly, then they do it well. They don't feed themselves properly. They miss their mouth, and they, try to walk and they fall down, crash into the table. It doesn't mean they develop bad habits or that they should have avoided these things. It's a royal road
Hmm.
to learning, but they're perfectly cool with it. They're like, I'm focused and I never feel embarrassed. I'm just doing what I do. I'm figuring
Right.
it out. I mean, as parents, we were excited. We smile and beam and say, "Aren't they doing great?" I mean, we understand this on another level. We just, as again, it goes to sleep and somehow in our minds when we're I mean, if I had a message to deliver through this podcast or anything else like that, it's this. And it's this thing about this is an honest process, which is learning and mastering things at the piano. It's a very honest, realistic process like any other, and we have to accept what goes on with equanimity and just really pay attention and let our bodies learn it. Which is once you
I,
figure this out, and believe me, it's not easy to teach because as a teacher, I'd have to undo years and years of programming with people that told them the opposite.
I have a couple of nuances. Would love to see if you have any thoughts.
Please.
Uh, I'll deliver them both. We could adjust them one at a time. So two things are coming in mind. One is a tolerance for mediocrity. So if you feel like, if you get in this mode that mistakes are okay,
Mm.
um, there's this potential, and maybe you have a different perspective on it. You get used to mistakes, and you almost like tolerate them more, and that can lead to sort of a mediocrity, right? And especially in these situations where performance is at stake. Um, and that's kind of with yourself. I also think there's also an edge case with others, right? If you're trying to help people learn and grow, and maybe you're working with them on a team or something, there's a sort of a different approach. Oh, hey, you didn't that didn't go well. Maybe you're in a group, right? An orchestral group or whatever. Hey, the note wasn't really great, but okay, you're learning, right? And oh, it's not great again. Maybe they're not practicing or something. You can kind of tell, right? Whatever. How do you have you found addressing those sort of nuances, about the taking this approach and where it could potentially lead in
Well,
the
I
wrong
think you touched
direction?
on something with this mediocrity idea. I mean, I love to teach, and I wrote my book very much with a reader in mind who would be an adult, what we call like a recreational pianist,
Hmm.
right? Somebody who has another career, retired or not, but I mean maybe the doctor, dentist, whoever they might be, uh, and they say, I've always wanted to come back to the piano. I started as a kid and I quit and I feel bad. I unfinished business. So let's try it again. And that's why I wrote it for. He says, you're smart people, you readers out there. You've done this in other areas of your life. You've had
Mm,
those productive mistakes. You understand how you have to be bad at something before you're good at it. You've done that when you mastered being a CPA or whatever you do. So
mm,
apply that to this. But I think a lot of people, when it comes to music, because we have a culture of you're talented or you're not or whatever, um, that people are a little bit too at home with their well of it's like an imposter syndrome, like I don't expect to be that good. you know i I like dabbling in it, and of course I'm always making mistakes, whatever. So I mean, I'd like to demystify that and say it's not necessary. You could master
mm.
this and be solid in front of people and all of that, but it would take believing that you can be better. I think one
Yeah.
of the reasons that it worked for me, and now that I think about this actually in a bit of a new way, uh, is that when I went to this teacher who I'd love to talk about in a minute, at the age of 17, I knew because of my early experiences that I was a talented person. I mean, I didn't doubt that. I came to it from that perspective. I knew that I didn't really understand how to practice properly, and I knew that I would sort of hit a plateau with my piano playing, and I needed new ideas. But it was, he could give me this approach that was radical to me, but I came to it as somebody who believed in myself a lot as a musician. So that's the difference. I think not everybody comes to it from that sort of
Mm.
perspective. I just needed the know-how. I needed insight into how to go about it.
Yeah, and as I think about it too, I guess with oneself, that is also part of it. Part of it is this, I don't know if you talk much about the default mode network, the kind of voices in your head, right? The voices
Sure.
in your head that tell you this and that. That's basically almost always garbage, scientifically studied and proven to be worthless, repetitive information. And yeah, and I think just like you said, it's just believing that you are capable and believing that if there were to be any mistake, which maybe there aren't any, right? Um, that it's part of the process of being amazing or, wherever you're headed. can help you progress faster, right? Because you don't get stuck, you don't get stuck on each little mistake. And it sounds like it helps to silence, if, as much as you can, those type of voices that basically distract you from doing well in the first place, right? If you're having a concert and you're listening to the voice in your head that said, "Oh, you just missed that B flat," then you're gonna miss the F sharp in the next measure, Uh,
Right. So if you're practicing along and you make a mistake, your mind can start this whole um, dialogue of rationalization. Oh, I wasn't paying attention, or yesterday that was fine. I was just being. Let me just try it again, or what's the matter with me? I'll never get. You can have all these things, and so what I'm saying is actually deeper than that, because it's not even just believe in yourself and think that you're okay and you're going to be good. It's really not about you at all. It's like basically, when I read Eastern philosophy and Eastern religions and things like that about, like forget set aside the idea that your whole life is about this story with you as the protagonist constantly. Uh, this isn't about your story. Yesterday I did okay. What's the matter with me? I'll never be any good. Whoever told me I could play the piano? That's just the stuff that your mind is churning and producing. Uh, but what I'm talking about, what's really exciting to me about practicing, beyond the fact that it can be really productive, is that it's an exercise in this selfless equanimity. It's like meditating. It's like I am simply observing what is happening and not taking it personally. I don't have an emotional reaction to it. I don't feel triumphant. I don't feel despairing. I don't feel frustrated. I don't feel anything. I'm just very attentive with this kind of kindly, self accepting noticing of everything that's going on, which is actually a very beautiful experience to do. It's a very beautiful thing to do for an hour or two in your life, to spend time with yourself in that way. That isn't churning your quote story along. I hope you're following what I'm saying here.
yes,
But it's
absolutely.
simply being attentive to something that's happening in the moment. It's not always easy to do that. It's not always easy to sit down and meditate and feel like your meditation has done what you hoped it would, putting aside the constant monkey brain and all this stuff that's going. We don't always feel we're doing what we'd like to with that. But if you have a Beethoven sonata in front of you and you're there for the next 45 minutes to kind of get into it and explore it and see how your body is doing with it and how is it today. As I always told my students, every day you sit down at the piano, your mindset has to be all bets are off completely. I have no idea what I did yesterday. Doesn't matter. All that matters is right now.
Mm,
So we have to actually come to that place.
mm.
And so to me, this is why I'm sort of such a zealot about this way of practicing, because it offers us that. It offers us this kind of experiences of not clinging to yourself in this way.
Mm. Yeah, I know also part of the philosophy here, especially around this topic of, mistakes, right, is that the mistakes are information.
Right.
So,
Totally.
this is information. If you make the mistake, now how you can progress. And um, personally, as an aside here, I embrace this, wholeheartedly. And what I notice is that I often will go, oh, yes, I'm choosing the hard road here, right? In life, whatever. I'm trying to do this, and this would seem difficult or whatever. And I know I'm going to make mistakes, and people are going to see them, or
Right.
whatever, right? And it's easy to forget, right? It's easy to forget, especially when you kind of choose that direction, if you're open to the mistakes and how and admitting to them or whatever, then you see them, you get frustrated. But it always does help to remember. The second book I didn't mention, which I thought of, aside from the Be Bad First, is Bird by Bird, by Anne Lamott. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
I'm familiar with it. I know her as a writer. I don't think I've read that particular one, but people have spoken to me about that book.
So basically, the basic concept of the book is the greatest artists, and especially writers, their first draft is just as crappy as yours. And the only difference is that they go back over it and they make another draft and another draft and another draft. And I think that it's definitely a hard thing to remember, even no matter how many times you've done it.
Right.
But if you are in a zone where where things are difficult and you're encountering challenges, to remind yourself to keep going, because that's where people give up, right? People give
Yeah.
up when they see the mistakes. They go, oh, this is not for me. But if you can only just continue past them and make a few more mistakes, you're bound to get better in whatever domain this is, right?
Yeah, they give up because they think it's about them, that everything is a commentary on you, and it's not about you. It's really just about this pursuit, and it's very refreshing. So, so can I tell you a little bit about this teacher that I've been alluding to? I'd
You
like
can do
to.
that, and I'd love to take a look at some of the content as well. So go ahead, you
Sure.
go ahead
Okay.
and guide that process. Talk about the
Okay, a
teacher.
little bit
Tell us when
because
you want to take a look. Yeah.
anyway, this is my other sort of big lucky break. So I was living in New York and I went to Queens College at a very young age. I graduated high school at the age of 16 and living at home. So I went off to, I wasn't really sure where I was going with my career or anything yet, which I guess maybe is not too surprising if you're 16. Um, but I became a music major in a Bachelor of Arts degree. It was not a performance degree. They didn't do that at that college. There's this public university, and they couldn't afford because the performance degrees are very expensive with the one-on-one training and the studios you have to have and all that. So it was like not that kind of a degree wasn't available. Um, but they had a policy that everybody who was a music major had needed to perform something for the faculty at the end of the year, just to show that you were studying on your own to be a performer of some kind, a singer or a player or something. They figured everybody calls himself a music major should be making music. So I went into a room with a few very well qualified faculty members to play something for them at the end of the year. And, you know, I played very nicely. I picked out a Schubert piece or something like that that I could play very fluently and I could make it expressive and I knew it inside and out. And not a problem at all. Wasn't nervous. And I just played it for them and waited for them to tell me how lovely that was and how great I was. It's not what they said. So because they knew me by then, I'd been there for a year. They said, "Well, Bill, just do you have any plans to ever learn how to play the piano for real?" Um, I said, "Say what?" So I mean, nobody speaks to me like this. Like, what are you saying to me? So I didn't play badly, but they said, "Are you ever going to learn how to do this for real, or are you just going to do what you can already do, like within your talent?" So it hurt, but I mean, I thought I kind of know exactly what you guys are saying, but I'm not sure what to do with this. Anyway, I decided to pursue this, and so I just happened to live in the same neighborhood as this Russian-born concert pianist who taught high-level lessons out of his house. His name was Leopold Mittmann, Mittman, and he had come to this country as a assisting pianist to flee the wars in Europe. He came with Nathan Milstein and Misha Elman and some of these great violinists. That's how Leopold got to this country. So I went and I played for him and to see if maybe I could work with him. And he said, "My boy, here's the situation. You have facility, but no technique." I said, So that sounds real. That sounds right. But I don't know what you're saying to me. So he said, "Well, I can, teach you what I mean by technique. And it's not going to be mysterious. It's just going to take about 6 weeks for you to adjust to this crazy idea of not controlling what you're doing. Learn how to give up the control, let your body tell you what it needs to know." And I was totally ready to hear this message. But the thing that occurred to me, I also want to tell you that I learned from Leopold Mittmann that I passed along as a teacher. And it's the first thought I had when I got the invitation to do this talk with piano people, piano as an instrument people, is this idea that Mittman showed me about piano tone, because this is a controversial thing, and I think there's been a news story that came out recently about
Yes.
can the way that you play the piano affect the tone. I mean, this is a debate we've had for years and years and years. So I was taught in a way like, of course it affects the way that of course. And I knew that from my own experience. When he sat down to play, I was like, oh my God, how are you playing that? How are you making that sound? So let me just go into this for 1 second. So can I get this on camera? Let's see. Yeah, here we are. So
Hmm.
here's the piano. Here's my hand. He says, so Where is the tone? Is it at the when you hit the key? Is that the tone? It's not there. Um, uh, Inside the piano is this big plank of wood, the sounding board. If you pulled out all the action, there would be this plank of wood. That's where the beautiful tone is. So when you hit the key, you're not touching that, but you can sort of feel it through the keys. So, and he said the way you can learn that, and anyone can do this, is you sort of pinch your own finger and feel the bone. There's a bone inside your other finger that you're pinching. You're not touching the bone, but you can feel it through your own flesh. That's the same way you can feel the soundboard through the key. So every time, no matter how soft the note is or how loud the note is, you want to play it in such a way that you feel like you are very naturally connecting with that tone that's deep inside there. It was a beautiful image to me. It was an inspiring image to me. And it gave me an idea of how to find this beautiful tone that they're talking about in these articles. That's not about measuring the speed at which you do your finger or something. It's more about this holistic idea about like that tone is in there, that soul of the piano is in there. And I need to very kindly touching in the way that you would touch your friend on the shoulder and say, "Hey, let me talk to you."
Hmm.
Not an aggressive touch, but a warm one. You can have access to that soul of the piano. So I want to get into that a little bit because it's an interaction that's kind of intimate and beautiful with what the piano is and what it can do and how it can yield up its most beautiful things that I got from this incredible teacher.
I can really appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like I don't know if you've ever done this, but I feel like you could even hold down the sustain pedal and have someone go and tap on that soundboard, right? And
Mm.
I see exactly what you mean. I can almost imagine it in my mind. There's a you can feel the soundboard resonate with that tap, of your finger, and you can tap it in a way that feels I don't know, just very rich and full, right? It has
And
that
this
kind
is
of a
really more like tapping. This is
capability.
kind of like sinking into it. That's why it's
Hmm.
so soulful. It's like you
Right.
stay with it and you feel this connection. Like that's your voice. That's
Mm.
part of you. So I owe that, among many other things, to this very interesting guy who had thoughts that I had no idea how radical they were until I started, giving lectures on them and writing a book on them. It's like everyone's just like, "What are you saying? Are you crazy?" So it's been an interesting message to deliver.
Mm. I mean, yeah, it is what's happening. You strike the string transfers the energy to the bridge, and it goes to the soundboard. It's interesting too because uh, as a piano technician, when I think through that process, it doesn't feel instantaneous. Uh, because you got to press the key, and then the key's got to touch the whipping on the other side. It's got to throw the hammer to the string, then the string's got to vibrate, and then you got to. But honestly, when you're playing the key, it probably works out such that your finger does generally kind of reach the bottom of the stroke when the string is struck, and the soundboard starts to resonate. So I like that. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, good. I'm glad
Now, did you
we
want to
could.
share some of the content or go into another topic? What are your thoughts?
Um, I don't know. I tell you what, I think, are you like linked up to get these YouTube things going that I sent to
Yep, I
you? Or
got them ready to
oh,
go. I've got the
okay.
unmastered
So
class moments and the other one,
let's
the
look at a little bit
through
of
the
that.
spring. Okay.
Maybe. Or no,
Yeah,
let's do that.
definitely.
Let's do a little bit of the playing one first. Let's do that.
Okay.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
this is
sure.
by Grieg. I love the Grieg lyric pieces. I had a chance to do an edition for um, Shermer of these pieces. So
Anything
this
else you
is
want
a
to say before we get started?
no, just a lovely piece that I thought I would give an example of my playing.
Okay. Are you hearing that?
I don't hear it.
Okay, let me make sure I fix the settings here. Sorry about that. Second. Yeah, I just realized. Got to make sure that's being sent through the right channel. Okay, sound, volume mixer. Should be going to there. Okay, let's try this one more time. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, start from the front. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, thanks.
I love the I love in the beginning and throughout the piece, some other places you've got that center line that's taking the melody, and it really feels, especially the way that you're playing it, like it's almost like it's a treble line. You know, like it's standing out in such a wonderful way, and the way the sort of accompaniment, the treble accompaniment is complementing
Mm.
it. It's very
Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah. So, um, well, okay, so we could talk about a number of things. I've been talking about my books a little bit. Can I say a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so yeah, so the first book that I wrote was called The Perfect Wrong Note, and this was my way of disseminating this wonderful, surprising kind of method that I'd learned from Mr. Mittman. Because I found that when I became involved in teachers organizations, MTNA, and these other big music teacher groups, which I've been involved with for years, and it's been great to know all these people and to be there. No one else was talking about this. No one, and that surprised me. And if I give a talk about it um, anywhere, there would be a couple of teachers, maybe piano teachers, who would come up to me at the end and say, "Oh, Bill, I know exactly what you're talking about. It doesn't surprise me at all." And they would invariably be Russian-born teachers
Hmm.
who had been trained in that system, and they're familiar with this kind of very physical, freewheeling, physical way of approaching the piano, which is kind of part of this. But otherwise, it was not part of the tradition. So that that was exciting to be able to put that in writing. And again, there were some lucky things that helped that to happen. And that book has sold far more copies than I ever would have expected, uh, which was really, I mean, the point is not to make you don't make money on a book like that, but the idea that people are reading it is so
Mm.
exciting to me. And I would go to conferences and get in an elevator with another piano teacher, and they would say, "Oh, are you William Westney? Oh my God, I read that book and it changed everything." I mean, and it's not my idea; it's just an idea that I was lucky enough to get and find a way to disseminate. So that's been great. And The other one just came out in 2023. Uh, After I retired from my university job, I had more time and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And COVID was happening, and I had free time to cogitate. And I came up with this other idea that did not see coming, was that there was a way to uh, describe or to allude to a lot of the work I'd been doing through my whole performing and teaching career in terms of the Greek god Eros, the god of love. Because when you look into Eros, and I began to do that, you find out that it's much more than we think. It's not just about love. It's not just about the erotic, but uh, originally this was a very important Greek god, all about human connection, about creativity, about the life force, about the whole way of knowing things that is not about words and logic and concepts, but about your body, your instinct, your connection with others, or that other whole sense of being. Like in Greek philosophy, there's logos and eros. Logos is the word, and logic, the ology of something, biology is logos. Um, and eros is the instinctive, earthbound, earthly part of us. It's the same kind of duality we know from other things, and so that was another whole way to delve into this and put a lot more sort of philosophy into that book than I've been able to do before. This has all been a fascinating journey for me. A little bit of an unusual one, I think. Even when I was in graduate school and pursuing a concert career, I always felt like if I ever get a chance to be a teacher and have anything to do with this, I'd like to find another way, but I wasn't sure what the other way would be, because I remember the first time I played in our little studio class in graduate school for the fellow grad students with the teacher. That you try out your pieces, before you're ready to play them publicly. You try them out for your peers, and you get suggestions and comments. It's an important part of the process. I remember playing a piece that I really cared about, and I wanted to convey my feeling, and I wanted them to share the feeling. I wanted to, is it reaching you and stuff? I wanted to know if it was making anything happen. I also wanted to know anything else I needed to learn. But anyways, I played this piece, Chopin, Ballade, whatever it was, and I finished playing, pouring my heart into it. And this silence descends, a little nice polite applause of about 10 people in a room, and then there's a silence while all the grad students are frantically thinking, what smart thing can I say that sounds like a grad student, which was what I used to do when I was in their shoes. So after a little silence, somebody says, "Well, Bill, that middle part where there's a big crescendo from the bottom of the piano, don't you think it might be perhaps a little more effective if you used less pedal there?" And I'm thinking, like, that's what you want to say? That's it? I mean, like, I've just told you my whole like life story here through this performance that I'm trusting you with. Yeah, well, we can talk about pedaling. Let's do that. Like, really? So, I mean, yes, I want to learn, but like, what's happening here? So I would say, okay, well, sure, let me try that with different pedaling. I'd look up and all the heads are nodding, like, oh, what a great class we're having. Made a suggestion. It was productive. We're having a great class. And I'm thinking, I just feel bereft. Like, this isn't what I got into this for,
Mm.
if that makes any sense. So,
Hmm.
so I was looking for a way where we could more not treat a piece of music or a performance as this thing that we're going to improve upon, this little object. I play my Chopin ballade. It's like in space. It's hanging in the air. This thing made out of musical notes. We're going to tweak it. We're going to improve it. We're going to do this to it. It's not a thing. it's a vehicle for me to reach you. Why aren't we talking about that? Did I reach you or not? Let's, what's
Hmm.
happening. So,
Mm.
so I developed a whole pedagogical approach, which I inherited from other people I saw working, and I adapted it myself. Which is, before somebody performs, they have to say, "Well, what would you hope we'll get from your performance? Can you tell us? Like, why are you playing
Mm.
this? What do
Mm.
you hope?"
Yes.
And then, having done that, we can give you that feedback and other feedback too. We can respond to your question like, was it interesting? Was it boring? Did it
Right.
tell a story?
Right.
Whatever it was you want, it could be anything. We'll tell you that. And we'll also give you other feedback based on what I call, here's what I got, which is not the same as making a suggestion.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's what I
Actually, I think
got
we.
is here, or here's what I didn't get. And if I tell you, well, I liked everything, and you had me in the palm of your hand, but the ending, I don't know, you kind of lost me. If I just give you that and I stop right there, that honors you because it's saying, and you can say, oh, wait a minute. Okay. My God, I didn't know that. I can think of 3 ways I can end. Let me try them out and other ways to
Mm.
end. You see what I mean? It's like you
Yeah.
can become your own artist in that kind of feedback. I believe in that kind of thing much more. So I've incorporated that. And then the
Mm.
other thing was, uh, I had another encounter, the very lucky one, with an author who you may have heard of called Eloise Ristad, who wrote a book called A Soprano on Her Head. This
Okay.
came out in the 1980s. It was a radical book. It was the first one that talked about musical learning in terms of life and all these other things about who we are as a person and how we navigate our life. An incredible, seminal book. And so, inspired by the workshops that she did, I developed my own workshop called the Unmasterclass, and this was written up in the New York Times, and this became catapulted me into more prominence as an educator because of that exposure. So the Unmasterclass is my answer to the Masterclass, which we all know what that's like a public lesson by a master teacher. They can be very fruitful. They can also be a lot of times not fruitful and kind of intimidating and tense and whatever. They can be a lot of things. But so this is a way to do a performance class where we try to loosen up and enrich the atmosphere we're living in before people offer their performances. They have performances ready to go, but before they try them, we do a group warm up to say, let's trust the music, let's trust each other, let's change the atmosphere within which then you can perform. And then I work with them in sort of radical ways. So I thought the other video I supplied you with was a little bit of the warm up process of this, and I'd love to share that of how this is at a university in British Columbia, very fine music school, top level students, and they'd never done this before. They'd know me, but this is just a bit of the how do we warm them up for an unmaster class.
Okay.
We just watch a few minutes of this, and then I'll show you. That's enough. Just to show
Yeah, and I'm assuming some of that comes back from your rhythmic.
downgrowth.
Uh,
Yeah, that's eurythmic stuff exactly.
mhm.
Not for toddlers, but for you know music students in a competitive environment. So you can see, and I ask people to gaze in each other's eyes when they do these mirroring exercises and all. It's not always easy, but that's the way. And that brings us to, well, this time is galloping by. Lately, I've been giving some talks at conferences about AI and music
Oh yeah, I
because,
definitely wanted to touch upon that.
yeah. So let's get to. So it relates to this because not that I know much about AI any more than anybody else, but I mean, I do know that every profession is saying, well, if AI can do all this stuff so well, what's left for us that's the human part that it's not going to touch, and does that matter? And I think this can be clarifying, and it is for us too, because um, AI can duplicate or a lot of the things that you do in music teaching, checking for accuracy of what somebody does, or giving them a chance to mimic something. AI mimics things. That's what it does. So if we say play it like this, do what I do, that's a kind of an AI type of model. Um, or giving the sort of consensus of what's been said. In classical style, we tend to use this kind of pedaling and this kind of ornaments. That's information you could get from AI. So if in our lessons we're giving that kind of information, we're not that far from AI. But what it can touch, and when I asked AI about this before I gave these presentations, I said, what do you have to say about what you bring to the table with music? And it said, here's the part we don't know anything about. We know it's important, but we're useless. That has to do with communicating with others, um, uh, tr- believable self-expression, that really convinces you of something. Intentionality. It used this wonderful word, but it can't help you with it. But it says we know that's important. Why are you playing this? So all these things, and so it made me realize all this stuff I've been doing educationally, these experimental things, these involvements and games and things I've done with people. We're all about trying to bring the playing to life and not have it just be dutiful or
Mm,
self-conscious. And so that is the human element. So I thought, that's something I know. So it's a whole new kind of perspective on how we can do things in the studio or in groups to kind of feel this interpersonal magic and trust that is
mm.
really what music is about. It's really why we do it and why people want to play it, whether they're amateurs or professionals. I think in many cases they just want to say, can I express and reach people and have them share this with me.
Yeah,
So that's
I agree. I think also something that always comes back too that's interesting is like, part of what we appreciate about musical performances, dance and theater and all these types of performances, um, athletic performances, is it's impressive to see what a human can do, you know? So if you have an AI or a robot doing it, okay, great, but that's okay. So,
yeah.
if I'm it's like saying you would rather listen to the record than go to the concert, right? I mean, you want to hear a person doing it live, right? That's
Well, it's
what's
just like these
exciting
moments.
about
I
it. Yeah.
went I went to hear this violinist called Augustin Hadelich, who's like the
Mhm.
top violinist in the world right now, with the Houston Symphony, and he played an encore, which was an arrangement of Träumerei by Schumann, which is a piano piece, but he played it on violin. And it went into these high harmonics. I've never heard harmonics that high in my
Mm.
life before. And they went higher and higher and higher. These incredible, unearthly, gorgeous sounds. And we're in this huge concert hall packed. And it was those moments like no one was breathing, right? We were all just like going on this incredible journey to this space together. And you could feel it. I mean, that's the thing I'm talking. What's shared with other people in the room with you. That's not the same thing as hearing it at home. And it's like you're there, and this incredible shared moment is happening. So when I first became a performer, I felt that from the stage. Like I'm getting this understanding from the audience. It's like guiding me how to play it. It's not just the way I practice it at home. It's like, oh my God, there's a kind of a communion of minds here somehow that's can happen. Not it doesn't always happen, but it can happen in live performance. So, this is the moment for those things to be treasured because none of that is in the purview of AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once again, this come up several times. I find there's this especially as technology advances, and it kind of, I would say, almost like captures us in our seats, whether we're watching Netflix or on some social media app or on the phone, just doing whatever. Um, there seems to be some activation energy that it takes away so that you feel less motivated for these things like, going to see a concert or
Yeah.
practicing an instrument or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
Experienced this with my 8-year-old just yesterday. It without fail, we're traveling right now, and there's a local, kind of a hands-on science museum type of thing.
Sure.
And without fail, I said, "Hey, we're gonna go to this museum today?" And immediately, no, no, I don't, I don't want to go to the museum. It was like there was something painful about it, and then I have all these videos and pictures of him there, like enjoying, so much,
Oh, right.
instead of being on the iPad or doing the, videos or the
Yeah.
games or whatever. Just, oh, that was so fun. That was the best part of my day. Um, and I think we're all like that now. It's
Yeah.
so
You're
easy to
right.
stay inside the house and do the things that take no risk and kind of are sort of aesthetically, simple, pleasing or whatever. So
Exactly.
I'm aligned with you there. Well, we're about to wrap up here. I always like to get a final, thought or direction from the guest. If you want to send us someplace, a website, words of wisdom. Of course, we're going to go out and check out your books and so on and so forth. But any last minute thoughts you want to
No, I
share?
do have a website, as you say, and it does have some other links to videos and other interviews that I've done that, about the AI thing and some other things like that, that it would, anybody who's interested but might get more information there. And no, I mean, I, since I retired from my teaching job and I'm doing just kind of whatever I feel like these days, some of it involves playing and practicing, which I still love to do more than ever. I just feel like, my relationship with the piano, it became a kind of a love affair. I mean, that's what it can be for a lot of people, I think. It's just it's so tactile, and the vibrations are part of you, and the things you think, the thoughts you have, and the feelings you have are immediately brought to life through this incredible instrument. I don't want to sound corny, but I mean, it really is the fact that it's this organic thing that we can work with in that way. It's I never take it for granted, and I'm as enchanted with it now as I was when I was 3 years old. So let me just I hope everybody can have that kind of an experience of the piano in their life.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'll echo that too. I think one thing that kind of came to me organically throughout our conversation today was that sort of childhood passion that we somehow lose, or and it's like, stop. I was watching the video of the kind of the warm-ups and things like that. And I feel this so much as an adult, and I hate the feeling
Yeah,
of, you hear some music and you want to dance, but you go, I don't think these people
yeah,
would
not the
think
time or
well of
place.
me dancing, or and it's
I
like
know
it's so sad.
it is sad.
uh, so
I
I'm glad you're getting a little bit of that into the world, and
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks.
there's so
It
much
feels it
precious
feels good
about
to
that.
do that. Any chance we get, it feels good to offer that to people. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll walk us out of the program, and we'll wrap it up. We appreciate
Thanks
you
for this
coming.
wonderful opportunity, man. It's very nice to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks a lot to Bill Westney for joining us today, as well as our live participants. Thank you for joining us as an audience. We're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. That's cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. If you joined us today by signing up for this session independently, hey, make your life more convenient. Subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session. Remember, area automatic registration for each week's new session. You can sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget about the podcast, the Substack, the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And sign up for the email list. at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. It's just your name and email. Bill, I'm going to sign off the Zoom. It'll end this, but if you want to jump back on the link, we'll do a quick wrap up. But
Okay,
other than that,
let's do that.
goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us again today, and we'll see you.